Life moves fast. To keep up, you need more than just energy. You need vitality. Introducing McDowell's Damiana, a celebrated botanical secret crafted for all genders, now captured in a single daily capsule. For women, it's great for hormone balance and reproductive health. For men, it's the traditional secret to peak vitality and stamina. With 300 milligrams of pure Damiana extract, it's designed for both men and women to support balance, mood, and natural spark. Reclaim your flow with McDowell's Damiana. Unlock the best version of you. Available at Health Service Center on the John Compton Highway and all pharmacies. You can also order online on McDowellsProducts.com. Rediscover your rhythm. Life is meant to be enjoyed. Morning walks, time with loved ones, and moving freely without constant discomfort. But when joint and muscle pains slow you down, even the simple moments can feel like a challenge. That's where McDowell's Pain Complex comes in. Formulated to support joint comfort and mobility, McDowell's Pain Complex helps you get back to the life you love, step by step, day by day. Move easier, feel better, live fully. McDowellsProducts.com. McDowell's Pain Complex. Rediscover your rhythm. Now available at all leading pharmacies and at Health Service Center upstairs the Napa Building on the John Compton Highway.
Stop letting your night be defined by trips to the bathroom. Waking up 3 or 4 times a night isn't just getting older, it's a wake-up call. Reclaim your flow and your freedom with McDowell Prostate Health. Specially formulated for men over 40, our premium herbal formula targets weak flow and frequent interruptions before they sideline your life. Don't just manage the symptoms, stay ahead of them. Get back the confidence of a full night's sleep and the strength of a healthy flow. Feel like yourself again. Pick up McDowell's Prostate Health at Health Services Center, pharmacies, or order online at McDowellProducts.com.
The man, the voice.
Life moves fast. To keep up, you need more than just energy. You need vitality. Introducing McDowell's Damiana, a celebrated botanical secret crafted for all genders, now captured in a single daily capsule. For women, it's great for hormone balance and reproductive health. For men, it's the traditional secret to peak vitality and stamina. With 300 milligrams of pure Damiana extract, it's designed for both men and women to support balance, mood, and natural spark. Reclaim your flow with McDowell's Damiana. Unlock the best version of you. Available at Health Service Center on the John Compton Highway and all pharmacies. You can also order online on McDowellsProducts.com. Rediscover your rhythm. Life is meant to be enjoyed. Morning walks, time with loved ones, and moving freely without constant discomfort. But when joint and muscle pains slow you down, even the simple moments can feel like a challenge. That's where McDowell's Pain Complex comes in. Formulated to support joint comfort and mobility, McDowell's Pain Complex helps you get back to the life you love, step by step, day by day. Move easier, feel better, live fully. McDowellsProducts.com. McDowell's Pain Complex. Rediscover your rhythm. Now available at all leading pharmacies and at Health Service Center upstairs the Napa Building on the John Compton Highway.
Stop letting your night be defined by trips to the bathroom. Waking up 3 or 4 times a night isn't just getting older, it's a wake-up call. Reclaim your flow and your freedom with McDowell Prostate Health. Specially formulated for men over 40, our premium herbal formula targets weak flow and frequent interruptions before they sideline your life. Don't just manage the symptoms, stay ahead of them. Get back the confidence of a full night's sleep and the strength of a healthy flow. Feel like yourself again. Pick up McDowell's Prostate Health at Health Services Center, pharmacies, or order online at McDowellProducts.com.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with big issues. Real issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM.
Another wonderful Friday afternoon to you, everyone. Welcome once again to The Real Issues with me, Shelton Daniel, your host and producer, alongside our technical operator, Alton Jaquan Joseph. And our program, as you know, airs weekdays from 12:30 until 2 p.m. on Real FM, the radio station that's available on two frequencies, 91.3 megahertz for the northern part of St. Lucia and 91.5 for the south. We simulcast on MBC Television, Channel 120 on the Flow Cable TV service. We are on Facebook Live and on YouTube live streaming as well. We've come through, I suppose, another weekly cycle. It was a 4-day week, wasn't it? Monday being the Easter Monday public holiday on which we don't have programs, or on the Saturdays and Sundays. But we've come through another weekly cycle of The Real Issues, and for that we are always thankful. Thank you very much for always being part of it and giving us, the raison d'etre, as we say, for doing what we do every single day. It's all because of you. We do appreciate and don't take for granted the sacrifice, the donation, the sharing of your time at midday, very important time, normally lunchtime. And I'm always encouraged when so many people message to say how they never miss The Real Issues. The Real Issues misses you sometimes. We're sorry about that. Sometimes technical problems, sometimes the weather, you're a bit under it, depending on how it is. But, the loyal following, the steadfast companionship that you provide us, it really is motivating, inspiring, and downright energizing. I've been thinking, if I say I am committed to being a peacemaker, to being a peaceful person, to putting peace among persons, accolades and so on, are they what really matter? Whether I'm recognized, whether I am praised and applauded, and I get the big up and the pat on the back and so on, that suddenly I'm going to turn against peace because people didn't recognize my efforts. I hate a lot among us, how I try and I make so many sacrifices and I've contributed so much. Not me again. I know it is not an easy thing to shoulder and to just essentially just suck it up and move on. But if you are committed to something, remain committed to it, regardless of whether you are recognized, regardless of whether you get the plaudits and all of that. And I've been thinking to myself, Donald Trump, the president of the United States of America, reputedly the most powerful man on earth, sold himself as a peacemaker, as the peace president, the man who was arranging ceasefires between the Congo and Rwanda, between Nigeria and whatever, the rebels over there, and he was ending wars, and he wanted to pull America out of the forever wars. You notice ever since the guy didn't get the Nobel Prize, that he seems to have coveted above all else, how he suddenly has become the most belligerent world leader and the one who initiates more very hostile, very violent confrontations where people are dying all the time. If he doesn't get America directly involved in it, but he certainly sponsors it and encourages it, and that's what I never believed him, and I think I'm in good company for that. Whenever Donald Trump was putting himself up like he was going to end the Ukraine war, but he seemed to be so purposefully soft on one side and putting the pressure on the other side and so on. I never believed that. Venezuela was just the beginning. Iran, he just doesn't have a long attention span. He doesn't have a lot of endurance. So once something goes beyond a couple of weeks, he tires of it. He wants to move on. He wants to have those quick and easy victories, rapid. And once it looks like it's going to get drawn out, he doesn't have stomach for quagmire warfare. the one that can be stretched out and so on. You go into Venezuela and in a few hours, on one night, you can send in your special forces and you can kidnap. There is no capture, abduct Maduro out of his compound and so on. And Maduro probably never expected, of all things that could happen, that's what would happen to him. The United States would send in forces to abduct him from his country, he and his wife, etc., etc., and not $50 million, of course, although I'm told that the people who likely sold out Maduro, who likely betrayed him, they ain't going to be getting any money. This was just, a little bit, a red herring, whatever, to send them into traitor mode and so on. That they're not getting, I've heard that they're not getting any money whatsoever. And it's possible that this will also happen to at least one CARICOM leader. Whatever he or she was promised to play the soothsayer role, which it is not the first time and so on, and they probably aren't going to get any of those benefits. It may end up being that Trinidad and Tobago might well be getting the greatest benefits, especially where it's a petroleum industry, petrochemicals, natural gas exploration, and so on. That may yet come from and through Venezuela after all the hostility and so on that has been exchanged and so on. But Donald Trump, all of a sudden now, the man who wanted Nobel Peace Prize so badly that he was prepared to, I want to say it was rather infradig to be accepting a Nobel Prize from somebody who was awarded it by the Nobel Committee and so on, that Venezuelan politician, Maria Corina Machado, giving her Nobel Peace Prize to Donald Trump, the little, flatter you, kiss your feet, smell your back, what am I doing? So that you can get favors that probably he will install you as the leader of Venezuela. But, surprise, surprise, Donald Trump says that the person he has the most faith in, he doesn't believe that Corina Machado has the intelligence. He doesn't believe she commands the respect. He doesn't believe that must have been pretty insulting, pretty insulting, He doesn't think you command the respect. He doesn't think you have the capacity for you to lead Venezuela at this time. Who does he decide upon that is going to continue if Maduro's deputy, the long-serving deputy to Maduro, very intelligent woman, very smart woman. You'll always hear me saying that. And I hope the intelligence and the prudence and the shrewdness that she has shown, that she extends it into other spheres and in other dimensions, including Venezuela's relations with the Caribbean community, CARICOM, that I believe has taken a plunge, or taken a hit from the misguided direction of Maduro in his last 2 years at the helm and so on, from 2024 after winning the elections, the kind of aggression and hostility towards Guyana over that territorial dispute. This just was not the time and the place for it. And the position that Maduro took, that the matter has been brought before the International Court of Justice, Guyana has said, okay, even though we believe this matter was settled a long time ago, whatever the ICJ decides, we'll abide by it. Maduro says, no, if the ruling goes against us, we'll not accept it. And it's probably because he knows there isn't a substantial case. I felt there was just too much aggression. And speaking about that, let me say to some of the people who don't understand, when you are under the barrel of a loaded gun or before it, when you are under threat, when you are at risk of people coming and snatching your country from under you, from invading it, from occupying it, you have to understand the kind of desperation that this can engender in someone. That even a third party that you probably ain't too hot on, that you probably don't care too much about, if they offer you the hope, the chance, the promise that they will defend and protect you against the would-be annexer and occupier and invader and so on, you ain't going to debate too much about it. You'll take it where it seems like it is feasible, like it seems like something that is doable and something that can protect you. I'm not one who will ever open my mouth and describe Irfan Ali and Bharat Jagdeo. I mentioned Jagdeo's name. He's the vice president. And to this day, I remain convinced that Jagdeo is the real power, behind and on the Guyana throne. Irfan Ali, Jagdeo because of retirement, term limits, whatever, and so on. But he's really the one who's Ofanal is a bright guy. He's a nice guy. He's a well-intentioned guy. But I think Jagdeo is the old veteran, we might say the old fox and so on, who has been in the politics much longer, who understands the politics, etc. and so on. He knows it from the ground up. He was not parachuted in, etc. And by the way, Jagdeo is a guy who studied economics in Russia, in what it was then the Soviet Union. I think he has a PhD in economics, that he got from some prestigious university in Russia back in the days of the Cold War. So you might expect he probably has a little socialist, communist, leftist background to him. A lot of the people in the present government, including the founding leader, Chedi Jagan, even though he was married to an American woman who became president of Ghana for a brief while after he passed away, the United States and Britain, they feared him. They did their best to marginalize and to keep him down, etc., because they regarded him as a communist, and they considered Forbes Burnham to be the lesser of two evils. But Guyana gravitating towards America and seeming to be on the American side in the whole thing with Venezuela and so on, who can't understand them? You got to understand them. Venezuela making those kind of threats at exactly the time when it seemed to be most closely engaged and aligned with CARICOM, whose headquarters is in Guyana, being threatened with annexation, and Venezuela already creating a map showing, that 5/8 of Guyana, 3/4 almost of Guyana belongs to them, Guyana Essequiba, doing this sort of thing. And if there were to be a bilateral, one-on-one war, or any sort of conflict between Venezuela and Guyana, it's practically no contest. Without some outside intervention, some capable force coming to Guyana's help and defense, Venezuela would overrun Guyana easily. They have a much bigger population. They have a much bigger military, much better equipped, much more sophisticated. Their air force, Guyana has practically none. Venezuela has some kind of air force which can do some damage. They have naval forces and so on. I mean, they would overwhelm Guyana in no time. So when someone comes and they try to criticize Ofanali and the PPP civic government in Guyana, I said, no, folks, we have to look at things from a practical perspective. We have to tell ourselves, what is Guyana in this situation supposed to do? Lean on CARICOM? What is CARICOM's military capability? Lean on Trinidad and Tobago or whoever else says they have a defense force? It is going to align itself with the country and the power and the resources that have a chance of pushing back the Venezuelans, repelling them, deterring them, defeating them, whatever it is. And I've been saying the same thing about Ukraine. This matter about Ukraine's membership in NATO. I am not saying they didn't have a desire to do it for a long time, but I am saying that Russia under Vladimir Putin provided that final push of spooking them, of freaking them out, that we got to align ourselves with people who are able to come to our aid and deter and repel and discourage a Russian takeover of our country. Putin would never be satisfied with the Donetsk and the Luhansk and the eastern part of this place and taking a part of it. He would annex the whole of Ukraine in no time whatsoever. And people who want to blame Ukraine for trying to become part of NATO and so on, I think they don't understand this thing from the very basic level. Someone is threatening you. Another person, even one you were not friends with, you don't care too much about, you don't share a lot of things with them, but they seem to be the one who can give you. I too would be racing for that NATO door. I too would be licking the shoes of United States of America to help me so that this Russian behemoth does not come and take me over. We gotta understand that. I think I've said that before using Jaquan as my reference. I'm in the studio. The young man is much younger than me. He's much taller than me. He's a lot more robust and burly, and strappy and looking fit and so on. Somebody come inside here and threaten to knock me out, and he looks like somebody who's willing to come to my defense. Maybe we haven't been talking for years since I've been doing this program, or how long he's been here. Man, I'm going to go to the guy and tell him what a great guy he is and, whatever, because, my tail is on the line to be cut. We got to understand those things. But let's leave that alone for the time being. I've spoken on it before. Suddenly Trump has become the most warmongering leader in the world, alongside, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu, who recognizes that he needs the resources of the United States to do this kind of expansionist and annexation. Same thing, annexers are always dangerous people, They're always dangerous people. People who go and just annex other people's territory like that. That's why Trump is even more dangerous than Putin. A man who wants to annex. I've never heard of, in my lifetime, American presidents talk about annexing. They'll invade, they'll occupy, and then they'll leave, or they'll tell you they have left whatever. They'll still continue to maintain what I think is called effective sovereignty or eminent domain, however they term it, and so on. They've done it in Haiti. They've done it in the Dominican Republic. They've done it in Cuba. They've done it in Grenada. They've done it, so many places in our hemisphere. They've done it in Panama and so on. But I never heard about annexation. You want to annex Canada? A big country like that? A neighbor that has lived and coexisted peacefully with you forever? You want to go and annex Greenland, which belongs to one of your NATO allies, Denmark or. You want to annex this and annex that. That's a different kind of mindset. And you're aligning now with Benjamin Netanyahu, which the United Nations has been saying for almost 60 years or more, that the occupation of certain Arab lands is illegal. Donald Trump comes in and he basically endorses the annexation of the West Bank and the annexation of the Golan Heights and the annexation of East Jerusalem. He recognizes it as a part of Israel, and to hell with what they say. And Americans went and they voted for this guy. You surprised at what he's doing now? You're surprised at what he's doing now because Netanyahu is after him. And like I said, there is a messed up thinking in America which is being encouraged and endorsed and sponsored and promoted and pushed by the religious right. That support for Israel, unconditional support, no matter how murderous and genocidal, how many atrocities they commit, that, if you believe you're Christian, you're supposed to stand by Israel. And stand by Israel means Israel can do no wrong and so on. And the reason I'm bringing this up, we just had Easter, We just had Easter. And I'm seeing both Trump and his defense secretary, who prefers to be called the war secretary or the secretary of war, both hosted Easter events celebrating the death and the resurrection of our Savior and the Lord Jesus Christ. And I'm saying, how can people who believe in that, who believe in Christianity, in Jesus Christ, in the crucifixion, in the resurrection, in all of that, how can they feel that it is their life mission and duty to be kissing the backside of Israel and Zionists and those kinds of people? It's like they believe they cannot make any headway in politics or business or the economy of the United States unless, they have this kind of sucking up to Jews and that sort of thing. Do you know? It's a very simple test, Is it that you believe in Christ and Christians as being the people of God, or you believe that Israel and the Jews and the Zionists are the ones who are the true inheritors of that covenant? Because when you look at the Christian scriptures from Matthew to Revelation, the Gospels, the letters of Paul, Peter and John, etc. and so on, James and Jude, you look at those things to Revelation. Jews, don't come and talk to them about that. Believing Jews, they're atheistic Jews who don't really care about those things and so on. They're Jews who have been part of Western life and Christianity for a long time. You won't even know because they don't make a big deal of it. They take their place alongside non-Jews and so on, whether it is in secularity and atheism or whether it is between religiosity and Christianity being part of it, whatever. They don't really care. There are people of Jewish origin who are Roman Catholic priests. There are people of Jewish origin who are Baptists and Pentecostals and so on. And they don't really, you wouldn't know because they don't make a big deal of it. It is the Orthodox, Zionists and so on, the ones who always wear a certain type of cap and hat and curl their hair in a certain way because they want to make it, apparent and very emphatic that they're Jews and so on. You can't come and talk to them about the Christian scriptures and gospel. They'll ridicule you. They'll laugh you off. You're going to come and talk to these people about a man who was on earth and who claimed to be God in the flesh. When that man declared those things, they found somewhere to frame him and falsely accuse him, and they hanged him, like a common criminal, on two portions of a tree, one upright, one across, and so on. They handed him into the hands of the Romans to sweeten it up and to incite the Romans to tell them that this man was a seditionist and an anarchist who was trying to overthrow Pharaoh and those kind of things. And we there, the American Christians and the whole TBN set and the Christian Zionists, as they call themselves shamelessly, and the religious right. You can't talk to these people about that today. The same thing they believe. This foolishness about a man who was God in the flesh, and his other name was Emmanuel, which means, God with us and so on. You can't talk to them about that. You can't come and talk to them about his crucifixion. They'll tell you he was crucified because he was a criminal. He was tried. He was found guilty. He was condemned, and he was hanged, aka crucified. They'll tell you this thing about he rose on the third day, and Easter, they don't want to hear nothing about that. But you have American presidents. You have practically everybody who's offering themselves up for politics in America, almost all of them, including Barack Obama, feeling that they must suck up to these people and that they must agree with everything, and the atrocities that they commit must be downplayed. I looked at that and I said, wow, Christian people in America, including Trump, including Hegseth, they're celebrating Easter and Christianity. And this is a day when they, like so many other people, will meet other Christians and say, he is risen. He is risen. But yet you're going to brown nose a people who have never believed this thing as a collective, who still don't want to accept it. They only pretend to go along with the Western thing in tolerance because they need the West, America in particular, so they won't risk offending them. Although I suspect if Netanyahu or any Zionists were to come and openly cuss Christianity and Jesus Christ, those people in America, they are going to still believe that, their salvation and their redemption is not about obedience and faith and in God through Christ, whatever. It's about standing, the favorite thing, standing with Israel. Do you stand with Israel? Will you stand with Israel? I look at this thing and I have to shake my head. I do hope that in St. Lucia, better theology and better teaching will continue to prevail. We will remain level-headed and so on, and don't be led into this kind of deceitful, seductive era where Jewish propagandists and lobbyists and so on has infiltrated churches and religious organizations, bribed them with money which they never seem to have in short supply, to have them believe in this kind of thing, to play on their mind, and on that basis for America to be dragged anywhere Israel wants to drag America. It's almost like we talk about effective sovereignty and effective control. It's almost like Israel and the Jewish lobby and the Zionist, sponsors and so on in America. Like they have America by the nuts, They have it by the scrotum. They're making it do whatever they want, pull it here, pull it there. They have people in both camps. Whoever they consider at the time is going to give them a better deal with what they want at the time, whether it is control of the banking and monetary system, whether it is some military expansionism, that they want greater capacity for, that they're going to do it. I've told you before, I always found it strange. Barack Obama, after fighting and having that very creative fundraising thing where individual people were being, asked to give $10 or $5 a month, and they built up, sufficient financing for his campaign. One of the first people he appoints, a Zionist, a guy called Rahm Emanuel, as his chief of staff. And it's like kissing Israel's, behind at every turn. Biden, Kamala Harris would be the same, She would be the same if she came. I think her husband is a Jew. Are you surprised? Or do you think it is coincidence that Jeffrey Epstein was a Jew? Now, I'm not saying his criminality arose from his Jewishness, Harvey Weinstein, all these guys. And that it is when this Epstein thing has become a big hot topic, a hot button issue for Trump, that all of a sudden Mr. Peacemaker, who was prepared to quite pathetically receive a Venezuelan woman's Nobel Peace Prize, suddenly becomes all warlike and so on. Is there a Jewish lobby, including Netanyahu and so on. The Israel is very intelligence-driven, intelligence-capable, intelligence-powerful. That they have certain things on Trump because it's from then everybody's saying is a distraction that he wants, from the whole Epstein thing and how he may be embroiled in it yet unknown to the broad public and so on, that he's doing this sort of thing. You think if there's dirt on Trump from Netanyahu, which by the way, his ally Elon Musk is the one who really started the ball rolling with this thing, and that Trump has some question to answer about Epstein. You believe Netanyahu don't know? In all those recent trips, Netanyahu making trip every week to go to Washington to the White House. You don't believe if he has whispered to Trump, Mr. President, if you don't do something about Iran, certain things may leak out. Not exactly in those words. Netanyahu was a major or captain in the Israeli Defense Force. He's a soldier, ex-soldier. He knows all about military tactics and psychological, warfare and a whole lot of those things. Military background and so on. He probably knows a whole lot of things, as does Putin, as a former intelligence agent, for Soviet Russia at the time and so on. These guys have smarts about them. These guys have techniques and they have networks of people that they dealt with and so on, that Trump is absolutely no match for them. Neither is Hegseth or any of those people. They cannot match up to them. Anyway, what time is it there now, Jaquan? Time for us to take the break. Let's take the break. When I come back, I have a little more to rant about, and then we're going to open the phone lines because it is, after all, the last day of the week. We're going into the weekend. Real issues. Don't go away.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. Real issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM.
Life moves fast. To keep up, you need more than just energy. You need vitality. Introducing McDowell's Damiana, a celebrated botanical secret crafted for all genders, now captured in a single daily capsule. For women, it's great for hormone balance and reproductive health. For men, it's the traditional secret to peak vitality and stamina. With 300 milligrams of pure Damiana extract, it's designed for both men and women to support balance, mood, and natural spark. Reclaim your flow with McDowell's Damiana. Unlock the best version of you. Available at Health Service Center on the John Compton Highway and all pharmacies. You can also order online on McDowellsProducts.com. Rediscover your rhythm. Life is meant to be enjoyed. Morning walks, time with loved ones, and moving freely without constant discomfort. But when joint and muscle pain slow you down, even the simple moments can feel like a challenge. That's where McDowell's Pain Complex comes in. Formulated to support joint comfort and mobility, McDowell's Pain Complex helps you get back to the life you love, step by step, day by day. Move easier, feel better, live fully. McDowellsProducts.com. McDowell's Pain Complex. Rediscover your rhythm. Now available at all leading pharmacies and at Health Service Center upstairs the Napa Building on the John Compton Highway.
Stop letting your night be defined by trips to the bathroom. Waking up 3 or 4 times a night isn't just getting older, it's a wake-up call. Reclaim your flow and your freedom with McDowell Prostate Health. Specially formulated for men over 40, our premium herbal formula targets weak flow and frequent interruptions before they sideline your life. Don't just manage the symptoms, stay ahead of them. Get back the confidence of a full night's sleep and the strength of a healthy flow. Feel like yourself again. Pick up McDowell's Prostate Health at Health Services Center, pharmacies, or order online at McDowellProducts.com.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. Real issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM. Real FM.
Appreciate you tuning in and staying with the real issues on this Friday, the 10th of April 2026. We'll soon be opening the phone lines to take your calls. Let me say this. The co-opting of religiosity and religious history and religious legends and biographies and narratives and so on to support the behavior of people, I do hope we'll give ourselves time to delve deeper into it for our own selves and to look at the absolute distortion, perversion, and corruption of the very things that those people claim to believe in. There seems to be a lot of capitalizing in Israel and among the Zionists about the legend of King David. You know, I think Israel always has something reference to David. There's a hotel that seems to be a favorite one for conferences and meetings of people like Trump. They call it the King David Hotel. It may probably be a crappy hotel, but you know, the name of King David being attached to it is about everything. And yet when one reads the biblical account of the life of King David, yes, it does state that he was a great warrior, that his own father-in-law, the then king, became jealous of him because he was getting so much praise and cheers of people, that the reputation as being a great warrior and military leader and so on eclipse that of the then king, the first king who became his father-in-law. He married his daughter but just couldn't live with people saying, you know, Saul has slain his thousands but David is tens of thousands. I think you know the story. But deeper than that, King David, it seems, was not very fond of people who indulge in what he considered to be excessive and unnecessary violence. It seems he actually cursed a trio. Well, by then one was dead already, but two of his nephews who he felt were engaging in bloodshed when it was not necessary and it was excessive. It just was too much. More than once he said, these men, the sons of Zeruiah, they are too harsh for me. The sons of Zeruiah were three. There was Joab, who apparently was another great military leader from a technical perspective and so on, who David made the leader or captain of his army and so on. And there were his brothers, Abishai and Asahel. And Asahel died relatively early in the reign of King David because he insisted he wanted to chase the man who was captain of the army before David became king under Saul, a guy called Abner or something, whose tomb is still there and being visited and being, you know, shown respect in the city of Hebron where the Bible said he died, you know. I understand people can still go and visit the tomb of Abner. What are we talking about? 3,000 plus years after he died and so on. But then afterwards, the two surviving brothers, Joab and Abishai, they lured Abner into what seemed to be a friendly invitation to come and sup and dine with them many years after, and they stabbed him, they killed him, you know, out of revenge for their brother. And the killing was done under a certain law which talked about avenging blood, and the place that they did it was not inside the city wall but just outside the gates and so on. So legally, on a legal technicality, they could not be tried for it. And King David's answer was that, you know, He had just met with Abner and negotiated essentially a peace settlement with him, that the house of Saul and the house of David would be reconciled and they would stop warring against each other. And so on. And he said, these men, they're too harsh for me. After Abner and Saul's death, different people thinking that they could appease David and curry favor with him, they went killing certain, descendants of Saul. One of them was a man resting in his home. And two guys went in and they stabbed the man and they killed him on his bed, and they came to David proudly telling him how they had just killed the son of Saul, thinking that he would be happy. And he said, no. God has made me king in spite of whatever Saul did to me and so on. And the evil that this did. And there's a guy who came to me after Saul died in battle and falsely claimed that he had killed him, hoping to extract a reward from me. I had him executed. How much more so will I take a dim view, not exactly these words, of evil men who go into a man's house where he's resting in his house on his bed unharmed and kill him in his house. And he ordered the execution of those two men as well. And he did that repeatedly because of what he considered to be, too much harshness and violence and so on. He had seen how his father-in-law, his predecessor Saul, had killed a whole city of priests and their families, 80 priests. And in those days where men could have up to 3 or more wives, you just have to multiply that by 4, And he had people executed. And I'm looking at Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, Pete Hegseth, a country that essentially has done you all nothing, has not in any way attacked you all or bombed America or done anything. You're just going and unleash this kind of thing on the people, killing children, bombing a school, killing civilians. You all don't care, and doing it, everywhere around the place. And these fellas always want to come and talk. Trump is the one who proudly talks about negotiating the Abraham Accords and so on. I'm saying the legacy and the history and the heritage that those people claim, it is not reflected in the behavior that's coming. So don't come to me with all that religious hypocrisy, especially at Easter time and Christmas time. The Iranians are people too. They are human beings. And nobody has a right to try to wipe out anybody from the face of the earth, coming and talk about, a civilization will die and this kind of thing. God don't need help, if you need to wipe out people. We have accounts of him wiping out people, but there was reason for it. They were into child sacrifice and a whole lot of different things they were doing. And he gave them time for them to move away from that. They did not. So he gave orders for them to be wiped out. But, it's the same way as those Islamic terrorists who are always on some battle against the enemies of Allah. And they're fighting against the enemies. Allah don't need you to fight his battles and to blow up people in planes in the air and this kind of thing because they are infidels and so on. The same way, the Christian West and the Zionist Israel and so on, they have no right to think that they have some fiat or some authorization or whatever it is we can call it to go and to wipe out people. This is wrong. If God wanted to wipe out Persians and Iranians, they would have been wiped out a long time. Want to go and bomb people like crazy, and then before there is some insurrection or public riot and a couple of Iranians die at the hands of the Iranian police, they are the ones, always there. Oh, these people are murdering them, but you're murdering so many of them, there's nothing wrong. Look at what's happening in Lebanon right now. Look at what is happening in Lebanon. Folks, we got to keep our eyes on those things and have a sense of justice. And never allow this kind of thinking to take hold in our country, that anybody has a right to go and exterminate people. It is absolutely wrong, and we must keep in our hearts the wrongfulness of it, or going into somebody else's country and just kidnapping their head of government and their president as if it is a right, and then suddenly inventing something, narco-terrorism and all this kind of foolishness. We must stand against that, or what is being done to the people of Cuba or attempted against them and so on. Because today it is Venezuela, tomorrow Cuba. We don't know which one of us is going to be next. We have to keep, even though we don't have a shot to fire, we don't have an artillery piece, we don't have a grenade and so on, we must continue to say that this is wrong. Now, we have a couple of short video clips to play. I think one of them is talking about the re-registration for the public assistance program. Remember some time ago, it was said that, you need to kind of renew your registration because a lot of things in the database would need to be updated, etc. Let's play that video clip.
Ministère di Equité vle informer moun ki ka jwen benefis hot program assistance public la, sa se PAP, ebe program sosyal ki nou kay ni aleksesis kote nou ka revisite informasyon ebe aplikasyon moun. L'exercice sa la ja koumase depi li 10 mars ek kay vini yo bout li 13 avril l'année sa la. Ça ka pwe place tous les jours à 9h bon matin pour juste 3h après-midi à Office Welfare tout au lieu pays. Tout moun qui a ba programme ça là, kay ni pour visiter Office Welfare à Communio ek marché et puis 4 paplio ek aussi l'autre document ko 4 ID national ek document médical qui plus récent, yon slip stoppé hot bank la kote yo ka jwen paiement. Certificat naissance la, 4 rapport l'école, et ben lettre hot l'école la qui côté mama yo ka attendre l'école. Moun qui pate jamais ni a 4 pap qui daté septembre l'année 2025 pour mars l'année 2026. Et puis moun qui pas jamais visité office welfare. Bouise visiter office là avant mois avril fini. Si ou pa pwe pa an l'exercice sa la, kote nou ka revisite informasyon PAP, aussi sa kay ane koz nou pou do bout perman pou lea, ebe ti wow a sou program PAP la, ek ou aussi kay ni pou viwi fe aplikasyon pou a sou program sa la. Pou ple informasyon, kouye Unit Social Services a Ministère di Equity, ebe Office Welfare Commune la, a 468 5 yon 08 ebe 468 5 yon 60 ebe 454 93 yon 4. Ça c'est your commission hod ministère di equity.
All right, folks. So a Creole version of the public assistance program, re-registration, the refresh being put on that. I think that's a very good idea. Jaquan agrees. So let's hope it serves a very useful purpose. People, let's be careful how we convey things to others. If you didn't hear properly or you didn't understand, go run and go and tell people, I hear Shelton Daniel was on your back, on his program today. I say so, not because it's anything really turns on it. But day before yesterday, it was, right? Wednesday, I had the 2 representatives of a team that is vying for election as the next biennial, 2-year executive of the Civil Service Association, and they were the person running for first vice president, Lindell James, and the second vice president, Andrew Charles. And they were on this program and they spoke. And I don't know about me saying anything to the effect that one of the other, because there were 2 other people who were supposed to be on the program, and it was indicated to me earlier in the day that they would not be on and that these 2 gentlemen would be in their place. But apparently somebody either got the impression that I said that one of them got sick mysteriously or something. I never said that, okay? It's not for me to say whether people got sick. It's as if it seemed like I was given the impression that they basically ducked and ran from appearing on the program. Another one told the second of those 2 people how I expressed extreme disappointment that they didn't show up, when I had been told that the lady was engaging in union work representing one of the members, and that was said by me on the program. So please, if it is some kind of discord, if that is part of the covert operations and so on, don't involve me in it. We like to put Roro too much. I don't know if Dosseri, the former president, when he called, if he had said something. I think there were 2 calls, one from Dosseri and one from another person who seemed to have had some prior experience. We know Dosseri is a past president, and they may have made some comments, but don't attribute them to me, please. However, I'm going to play another short clip where it seems another gentleman who's running for president of the CSA. He hasn't presented himself as part of a team, Maybe he'll never appear on this program. I don't know. But I felt it was an interesting clip. How long is it, Jaquan? Okay, 2 minutes. Let's hear from this gentleman. His name is given in it as well. Okay, so this is the campaign promotional pitch of Nixon Barry, who has not presented himself as part of any team, but he is apparently throwing his hat in the ring for the presidency of the CSA. There is no narration on it. It's just the video, which has, of course, the description in writing on the screen and so on. So we just thought we'd play it. Thank you very much, Joseph Dossery, for saying that I never intimated anything of this sort. And I can't remember who, if somebody said it, but I certainly didn't say anything to the effect that, you know, one of the two people who should have been on the program or who were expecting that essentially they ducked, or that I was very disappointed in not having another of them and so on. You know, something I think somebody's trying to stir up some kind of problem. Like I said, Dosri, I don't remember, but I think two people called the program with substantial contributions, and it looks like they're knowledgeable about the CSA, about trade unionism, about industrial relations, and you were one of two, so I can't even remember who said that, if anybody said that. But, you know, in succession, for the two people who were not there to be calling me and telling me, I heard that you said that, you know, it's something I've experienced before, where people always in a hurry to run and give some kind of story and to, you know, longibaga and so on. Like I say, it doesn't really hurt, but let's try to be a little less on stirring up, you know, trouble and fights among people and so on with false conveyance of information, or incomplete or overstretched and so on. All right, thank you very much for another man who clarified that Jagdeo has an honorary doctorate, not a PhD. He earned a master's degree from the Patrice Lumumba University in Russia. And be honest with you, I didn't even know Russia had a Patrice Lumumba. If it is the same Patrice Lumumba, who was once, was it Prime Minister or President of Congo, of the Congo? I think the Belgian authorities, colonial authorities, they say had a part in having him arrested and summarily shot, executed, whatever it is. It's something that still reverberates today, because after him came one of the most heinous and hideous African leaders, who was said to be a pawn and a stooge of the West and so on, a guy whose original name, I think, was Joseph Désiré. and he changed his name to Joseph Mobutu, and to try to sound more African, he called himself, how they call it, Mobutu Sese Seko, or something of that kind, and so on. A real dictator, plunderer, and so on, was overthrown by a man called Joseph Kabila, who was actually shot, executed by his own bodyguards, and afterwards his son Laurent Kabila was the man who was shot by his own bodyguards in the manner of Indira Gandhi, of course, of India. And then his son Joseph Kabila subsequently became the democratically elected president. So democracy returned to the Congo after a long time, many people felt, since those days of Lumumba being assassinated and executed and so on, quite unjustly. People say to this day, I didn't realize that Russia had a Patrice Lumumba University. Another thing that I'd like us to ponder, if all those things being done by Donald Trump in the world, upsetting the peace, upsetting his own allies, threatening some of them with annexation, and really turning the world on its head, how is that likely to affect the FIFA World Cup in the United States later this year? How is that likely to affect it? Do you think a lot of countries will decide that the world, and especially America, is just too much on the tenterhooks of unpredictability and instability, and people may be targeted? You might enter legitimately, and ICE agents might be tackling you to the ground for deportation because they seem to like that kind of theater and drama and excitement and so on. And a lot of countries will just figure that, this isn't a place that they will feel safe or even comfortable. Despite FIFA trying to appease Trump and to ingratiate themselves by creating a prize called the FIFA Peace Prize, I never knew FIFA was in the business of decorating people for peace and so on. I thought that was adequately being handled by the Nobel committee and so on. But create all kinds of things. Donald Trump, you have to stroke his ego and flatter him and so on. But to me, he has shown himself anything but peaceful and anything but deserving of some peace accolade or decoration or prize or trophy or medal or anything of that kind whatsoever. If you were someone looking at that situation and you had the decision-making power over whether your national team participates in the 2026 FIFA World Cup in the United States of America, would you still go ahead and do it? To me, that is a serious question right now. Will people be taking the opportunity to snipe at this country through its team and so on, and maybe do whatever it is? Despite the trying to shut the doors on people from coming in, will there be efforts to embarrass certain nations by granting asylum, to their team members so you can show how terrible that they are? It's just looking like something I personally would not want to go to, not even as a spectator, because of what has been done in the world right now. Everything that is being done is anti-peace, it's anti-collaboration, it's anti-cooperation, it's anti-unity. I wonder sometimes if even the United Nations is going to survive, this kind of thing. If at some point there will not be countries begin to want to pull out of the UN, just like the US is pulling out of that health organization, WHO, and pulling out of this and pulling out of that treaty, whether we won't see a beginning of countries wanting to leave you, or America telling United Nations, we don't want you here, you're not welcome anymore, move out of here, go to find some other country to host you, demolish the building or take over the building, start to, expel diplomats and deport them and do all kind of things. To me, nothing right now is inconceivable in terms of what's happening in the world. I would not be going to any FIFA World Cup in this kind of global atmosphere that has been generated like that, because I cannot see it getting any better. It's like you agree to some ceasefire with Iran. The initial thing comes out, Pakistan, which is brokering, says Lebanon, the Lebanon front is included. But it's like Israel takes that pause as simply now we can concentrate more attention on Lebanon, and absolute terror is being unleashed on Lebanon right now. Like, okay, we have a little pause on the Iran front, so let us totally destroy Lebanon and so on. And I don't know how this can be conducive to the peaceful atmosphere that international sporting competition is supposed to reflect, it is supposed to encourage, it's supposed to foster and so on. I don't know how anybody can feel that it can be a good sport in these kinds of conditions. I personally don't feel that way. Let's take our final break, and when we come back, the phone lines will be open for your calls, and we'll be reading your messages as well.
The voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. Real issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM.
Life moves fast. To keep up, you need more than just energy. You need vitality. Introducing McDowell's Damiana, a celebrated botanical secret crafted for all genders, now captured in a single daily capsule. For women, it's great for hormone balance and reproductive health. For men, it's the traditional secret to peak vitality and stamina. With 300 milligrams of pure Damiana extract, it's designed for both men and women to support balance, mood, and natural spark. Reclaim your flow with McDowell's Damiana. Unlock the best version of you. Available at Health Service Center on the John Compton Highway and all pharmacies. You can also order online on McDowellsProducts.com. Rediscover your rhythm. Life is meant to be enjoyed. Morning walks, time with loved ones, and moving freely without constant discomfort. But when joint and muscle pain slow you down, even the simple moments can feel like a challenge. That's where McDowell's Pain Complex comes in. Formulated to support joint comfort and mobility, McDowell's Pain Complex helps you get back to the life you love, step by step, day by day. Move easier, feel better, live fully. McDowellsProducts.com. McDowell's Pain Complex. Rediscover your rhythm. Now available at all leading pharmacies and at Health Service Center upstairs the Napa Building on the John Compton Highway.
Stop letting your night be defined by trips to the bathroom. Waking up 3 or 4 times a night isn't just getting older, it's a wake-up call. Reclaim your flow and your freedom with McDowell Prostate Health. Specially formulated for men over 40, our premium herbal formula targets weak flow and frequent interruptions before they sideline your life. Don't just manage the symptoms, stay ahead of them. Get back the confidence of a full night's sleep and the strength of a healthy flow. Feel like yourself again. Pick up McDowell's Prostate Health at Health Services Center, pharmacies, or order online at McDowellProducts.com.
The voice. Your hero is back. Raw facts, no fluff. Shelton Daniel is here to deal with the issues. Real issues. 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday on Real FM. The man.
This is the Real Issues. We're taking your calls. You can WhatsApp call us on 487-9849, and you can also use the landline, which is 4533-911. Now, a couple of people have been trying to call me on my own phone. There are people who I think, we have personal direct communication. But when you're trying to call me during the program on my phone, it can present a bit of a challenge for me. If it is a contribution you want to make to the program, use the numbers that we are giving you. Like I said, one of them is the mobile number that you can WhatsApp call us on. It is 487-9849 with 758 the area code, of course. And you can also reach us on the landline, which is 4533-911. All right, so we're open to take your calls. We were getting calls coming through on the landline, but I'm sorry I couldn't take them at the time. But now that it's open, you are welcome to call us. 4533-911 and 487-9849. Now, my friend from the South Glenda, I see that you were just trying to call me. I don't know if it is something that is related to the program, but if it is, use the lines which are provided. 487-9849. I see a call coming on that WhatsApp number. So let's see if we can get it now. Hi, good afternoon. Real Issues, you're on the air.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, Shelton, I was telling you the ad you had in Patois. I called that lady yesterday, Mrs. Michelle. She told me she would call me back. She never did. I called her this morning. She did not pick up her phone.
Who's Mrs. Michelle?
The lady at office in Beaufort. The welfare, whatever.
Yeah, a lot of time these people have so many heavy, caseloads and so on that sometimes they'll see your number and they might not be able to call you back or take the call right away, but they usually...
Yeah, but since I called her yesterday and she said she'd call me back, she didn't.
Yeah.
I called her twice today already.
Yeah. Things are, like I said, sometimes if all the good intentions, people call me, I see the missed call and I intend to call them back, or you tell them you'll call them back, and then a lot of things get in the way, and I'm probably not as busy as those people. The public is always pressing. But you're aware you're on air right now, eh? You call in during the Real Issues.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Okay, how are you feeling today? What else is on your mind, though?
Me? I don't even know. I'm watching what's going on. I want to listen to the budget. Let me see what is coming my way.
You want to listen to what?
I have good things. The budget.
Uh-huh.
To see what is coming my way. I know my Prime Minister have good things for St. Lucia. I'm just wishing him good luck. Hold on strong. Don't let go.
Okay. That's very kind of you.
Then. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right. Okay, the number, like I said, is the WhatsApp calling number is 487-9849, and you can also reach us on 4533-911. Let me just say, I'm all for discussing issues. Our program is, after all, called The Real Issues. But you see this thing about people who were just defeated, rejected in a general election, that it isn't 6 months it has passed, seem nowadays to be fond of always putting their voice and poking their faces through the news and reports and interviews. They always have something to say and something to criticize, which is nothing new. In other words, you have been saying this thing for 5 years. You have been pushing these narratives and these perspectives for at least 5 years. You've had the same things to say and the same critiques, whatever. You campaigned on them. You saturated and bombarded us with them. And now for you to be coming and trying to come with the same line and the same, the same story and the same, let other people have time for you. I don't have time for that. It's like you believe that by continuously overwhelming people and being in their face and in their ears singing the same song, and as the old people say, I don't have time for that. That's not a real issue. The people have heard of it already several times, and the people have made their feelings about it. The people have made their position. The people have expressed their decision pertaining to it. So this thing about you want to be on every single time about it or whatever, I have to look at my TV and is Marcella Johnson, have something to say that we've probably heard, and all of a sudden other people know about beach access and so on, when we know who were the people who were behind the denial of beach access. And I have to be hearing Dominic Fede on the same thing over and over again, and not necessarily aligning the right people with it. I'm very sorry. I ain't making too much time for that. And to try to bring some quarrel about those people on the real issues, I'm not too fond of that either. I'm not too fond of it. We had enough time to hear those people, and we did hear endlessly from them. We heard endlessly from them. And the people made their feelings. Who wanted to build on Queen's Chain and they didn't give them, permission, which it was not the permission of any government minister to give you, and other people who had this thing, which should have been by court declaration. People want to put things on the backs of politicians because it suits them at a particular time. There are some things by now we should have greater wisdom and greater knowledge about it. Who want to lecture Claudius Francis about the speaking order and who he should let speak after the prime minister? That is not a decision the speaker makes. The speaker, when he looks around after one presentation has finished, he looks left, he looks right, and in this case, he looked left and right several times. And he saw no one put on their light. He cannot tell the prime minister, no, prime minister, you cannot have your rebuttal now. Whoever wanted to speak should have put on their light and caught the speaker's eye. Turned on their mic. They did not do it. What you want him to do? Say, Mr. PM, look, I think we should give some time, to see if anybody. How much time does it take for somebody to make up their mind that they want to speak? Now people want to lecture and criticize Claudius Francis about, how he should arrange speaking orders. Since when that is so? Your leader, who it seems that despite his dismal performance in 2 general elections, he is the singular, most significant cause of the UWP's loss, but you all still want to worship him, doing foolishness about he don't want to speak before Richard. He want to wait. He want to see Richard speak. If Ernest Hill speak, if Alva speak, and so on. And the guys are punking you over and over again with the same magic you're doing it yourself. I have never heard, and people forgive me, I'm not saying he has not done it. I have never heard Alan Shastney come into the house and big up his constituents. Never heard it. How come that phone was lighting up and so on when I was talking, but right now that I say the line is open, is not coming through. And there's another thing I need to say about that too, anything, I have never heard Alan Shastney come and say, as you hear Sean Edward doing, as you hear Alva doing, as you hear Richard, Philip J. Pierre, all of them doing, they come and they give a big up to some constituent of theirs who has reached a milestone, 100 years. There's a centenarian in my constituency, and I want to big up Ma whatever of Wavin Makok, who even at 101 years old is still quite lucid, and she can remember, I have never heard Alan Shastney do that, to come and to big up anybody in his constituency. But anyway, we get in a call. Real issues, you're on the air. Go ahead. Hello? Hello?
Good afternoon.
Hi, you're on the air. Go ahead.
I am on the air. So, Shelton, have you heard of any centenarians in Microsoft?
If there are, and we are depending on Alan Shastney to tell us, we wouldn't know. Because it's always a magic this guy is doing when he comes to the house. It's always a magic. This guy does not take up to give accolades and big up and felicitations and so on to his constituents. Not even that.
The man don't know his constituents. What you expect him to do? The man don't know his constituents.
Even if he knew his constituents, they don't matter to him, because it's always a showdown with Claudius Francis and Richard Frederick and who else that he comes to the house for. He never comes to represent his constituents, to speak up for them as a representative ought to be doing and should be doing and is expected to do. He never comes on that vibe. He can't wait if he don't get his way in the speaking order to pick up his papers and run to a certain talk show.
But Shelton, we are allowing that. We need to amend legislation or standing orders or whatever we must do to deal with that man. Because we know who the man is. Okay? That is why we rejected him in the leadership capacity. But his poor folks, they're not necessarily voting him, the man. They're probably voting him, the Caucasian. They're probably voting him, the party he supposedly represents. And that the other thing is that they don't know better.
Let me ask you something. If the people of Miku South have not seen fit to do something about Alan Chasney, the one way in which they are empowered to do something about him, why should we do their work for them? Go and amend standing orders and that kind of thing. They want to put him there after he's doing that thing. He continues to do it again. We have to go and fix up for them what they should do. They have not done it. Man, let the man do what he's doing.
Yes, again, Shelton, there's a song by a certain guy from Soufriere. Okay? I believe in the Father, confidence.
Okay.
I honestly believe that God has placed Alan Chasney there to expose Alan Chasney in the third capacity. God gave Alan Chasney his first opportunity to lead us, and he treated us like slaves. The second opportunity was to show some level of leadership. Wait, am I good in my head? And he showed us what he thought of us when he did not have power, but he thought he had power. And God showed us the absolutely powerless Alan Chasney and exactly what he thinks of us. Now it is going to be us to decide. We need to help the people of Miku South. They don't know that they don't know better. They don't know that they don't know better. You understand?
Listen, all I'm saying, the will of the people of Miku South has to be respected. If they are getting from the exercise of that will something which maybe the rest of us see as being that they do not deserve and so on, at the end of the day, it's their decision. If they want to see the performance of an elected MP who never seems to be representing them, their interests, or even trying to articulate those interests, then they have made their decision. You know, the government, of course, has overall charge and responsibility for the country. I'm not saying it should, it should not allow roads to fall apart and public electrification or water services and so on to fall apart in the constituency. But you have a man who's coming there and who's not conducting himself at a bare minimum, at a de minimis level of speaking up for the people and so on. Is always looking for some reason to walk out. He's always not standing up to speak up on behalf of the people there. Whether or not we agree with him or not, that it is right, that it is privilege. He's always doing that foolishness. We can't go and fix for the people what they have decided that they want, that they like, that they endorse, that they repeatedly, 3 times, they've elected him. They've had time to see him in action. We can't go and be and play like we know more or we know better for the people of Miku South than they know for themselves. I say don't want to amend any kind of standing order. Let the standing orders remain. The speaker looks left, he looks right to see who else wants to speak, whose light he sees, who indicates in whatever way and catches his eye so that he can say, okay, member for so-and-so. Nobody does. The mover of the bill or the motion is now entitled, in the absence of anyone else showing an interest, to come up and to summarize and hence close the debate. You do that all the time. How long has Alan Chasney been doing that cat and mouth nonsense? And I look and I see people who ought to have a legal brain, who were once speaker themselves, who know what is happening, trying to come and defend this kind of thing. And that's a problem in the country, Once somebody's our friend and they're on our side, we always feel we have to come and defend them and shield them and protect them. Once somebody's not on our side, we come out swinging against them regardless. My criticisms of Sarah Flood, I noticed the Bobrin seems to, so I hope I'm being right in not adding the Bobrin. Hardly anybody does these days. My criticism of her continues. Sarah Flood was in government. While in government, a minister in the cabinet, she apparently had a falling out, a parting of ways with Kenny Anthony, that even though she tried to make us believe that it had to do with the revised criminal code and a minuscule section of it that dealt with a woman becoming pregnant as a result of rape or incest, if she wanted to terminate the pregnancy and her doctor approved that there was no danger to her health or whatever and so on, and said that it could be done, but it had to be done within the first trimester or whatever it was and so on. Sarah Flood, while a minister, went to war, against the government publicly. I mean, I saw the lady on Derek Walcott Square, her eyes bloodshot with anger. She had just had a baby. She came on stage within a month or whatever it was of a baby. That is the time the tradition in St. Lucia tells you women should not engage in that kind of vigorous physical and emotional, activity and so on. There's a term they call sweet kush or something of that kind. The lady looked like she was in a rage, like she was ready to fight over this thing and so on. And she said whatever, had she been dead, they would feel her wrath, and you could see she was full of wrath and so on. You felt that she was passionate about the abortion thing, that she felt that should not be there. Government change. Well, Kenny Anthony was prime minister at the time, fired her from the cabinet. You can't be in my cabinet and you coming out against your government in the manner that she did. People said that was unfair. It should not have, I don't know why people believe Kenny Anthony should have kept people in his cabinet who were so manifestly at variance. George Odlum, he in the cabinet, but he go in and form some alliance, with other people, with John Compton and Morella and this kind of thing, and one and a national unity, political arrangement and so on, while you're a minister in the cabinet and Kenny's supposed to keep you there. I don't know, it's always on the Labour Party. People want to throw this kind of foolishness. Kenny Anthony fired you, okay, you went up as an independent, you lost Richard Frederick, you joined UWP, you became part of it. UWP won the elections December 2006. You become part and parcel in the belly of the UWP, deputy ambassador to whether it was UN or wherever it was and so on. You never brought up the question of abortion again. Never brought it. UWP was in government twice after that. You never brought it up. But when you were in the government, you had everything to say about abortion. Real issues. You're on the air.
Hi, Shelton. Good afternoon.
What's up? How are you doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm okay.
Yeah, Shelton, now that you mentioned this thing about Sarah Flood Bobra and how she went to war.
You were there, of course, Andrew. You saw that kind of public display that took place.
I saw it in the house. Listen, Sarah, and I'm calling you about this because this will feature in my second novel, which I'm currently working on. Shelton, that was a fascinating delivery. Fascinating.
Murderers.
I mean, regardless of how you look at her.
Murderers.
Regardless of
baby killers.
Fascinating. And for several reasons. But for me, one of the things is, listen, I have to tell you, I admired her pluck for standing up for what I thought
she believed in.
But what happened later was what really devalued her.
Exactly. You believe in it because you want to take a swing at Kenny Anthony. You want to, you want to take a swing and a swipe at Kenny Anthony.
Well, the thing is, look, I don't know about that. All I'm saying to you is, I admired her pluck for standing up for what she believed in, or what I thought.
What you thought she believed in at the time.
At the time. But what devalued that contribution in my eyes, and devalued her as well, was when, after the elections of 2006, the same Sarah Flood Bobra, who had made such a song and dance in the house, and believe me, it was an electrifying performance. And if you read, because, well, I'm going to release an excerpt from that on Facebook sometime next week, God willing. It was I don't think that since people like George Odlum, we had seen any anything like that in the House. I don't think we had seen anything like it. But let me get back to what I was saying. So what devalued that contribution and her, in my eyes, at least, was when, after the 2006 elections, the same Sarah Flood-Bobra, who had made such a big thing of that amendment to the criminal code, that particular section, that particular piece of the amendment to the criminal code in the House, she said absolutely nothing because the government had changed. The same government, the United Workers' Party government, that she had stood on platform shoulder to shoulder with, the members, she said absolutely nothing because they were in a position to amend that same amendment. We heard nothing from her, not a peep, absolutely nothing, no rien, nada. So, I mean, quite apart from the fact that, like I said earlier, I was really transfixed by that electrifying performance, and I admired her pluck for standing up to her cabinet colleagues for what I believed then was something she believed in. But I learned later.
Yeah, it all evaporated once the government changed, right?
Oh yes, once the government changed, by her silence, her complete, profound silence on the matter, not a peep. I said, no, Andrew, you were completely wrong about your lady.
That is why that is why these things they set you up. These things they set you up for a continuing credibility problem, because you serve as speaker and now you have something to say about Claudius Francis. Claudius didn't set up any speaking order. He has no control of it. The rules simply say that the next speaker shall be the first person who either switches on their mic or catches the speaker's eye or whatever it is. Claudius swept his head from side to side several times looking to see if anybody would come on. Mike don't come on. Philip J.P. decided to stand and close the debate.
Shelton, that thing has been discussed over and over again. And all kinds of people, including Claudius Francis himself, have come out and clarified the matter over and over. So listen, I don't think that makes any sense to any right-thinking solution anymore, because the matter has been dealt with over and over in the public domain. For Sarah Flood-Bobra or anybody else to come and try to make political headwind with that makes absolutely no sense, because I don't think any right-thinking person will listen to that nonsense. Thanks, Shelton.
All right, okay, thank you very much. Someone has sent me a flyer. I think maybe I'll just have time to just reference it before we close the program today. And it is a flyer that seems to be coming from the camp of the CSA that's vying to become the new executive, the current president, Tekla de Turville, the two members who are here and others. And it says, full disclosure, no apologies. We are asking persons not to get upset at our content. All we strive to do is give full disclosure, not just with words, but with documented evidence. It's time our members know the truth about our building, our finances, our medical plan, why members are being underserved. If you feel angry reading this, ask yourself why. Your anger is not because we are wrong. Your anger is because your blame the president campaign is falling apart. Let us remind you, the president alone has no power. It is the 4 executive members, majority vote, who keep blocking progress. All that was requested, a simple independent audit of CSA finances, reasonable, necessary, blocked. Documented fact. Before this president took office, executive members were being paid a $300 Christmas bonus, while ordinary members struggled. That practice was stopped immediately once she came in. So yes, we understand the frustration. The old way is being exposed and the truth is uncomfortable. No more hearsay, no more deflection. We are one team. We have the evidence. Day one, we open the books. All right. It looks like there's been some throwing down the gauntlet, taking off the gloves and so on and saying, well, you want to accuse us, you want to make allegations, let's see. You make your accusations, we provide the evidence and the proof, and we'll allow, the better one, will prevail. Like they say, better man tell. It's exciting in its own way. I do hope it doesn't work to the fragmenting and fracturing and, disintegration of the Civil Service Association. But we have to go now. The lotto is on. Do have a great weekend, everyone.
The winning numbers for the midday draw of Friday 10th April 2026 were Double Daily Grand 11, 13, 15, 17, Big 4 9735. The Big 4 Multi-X ball drawn is 2X. Pick 2 99. The Pick 2 Multi-X ball drawn is FP. One off 860. Lucky Free 792. The Lucky Free Multi-X ball drawn is 5X.
The man, the voice. Your hero is back. Raw